welcome to episode 8 of Tutor Chat. My name is Helen Dickman and I am joined by Lucy Kennedy here. We both run the 11 Plus English Club, and we do these sort of weekly, bi-weekly sessions where we talk through basically hints and tips and share advice on the 11 Plus process. We've been doing the 11 Plus sort of teaching and tutoring now for a very long time. I think combined it's coming up nearly 10 years between us.
Yep.
So we have a lot to talk about and a lot to share. So the topic we're talking about today is all about improving timings in exams. At the time of this recording is the 8th of August that we're doing this. So we're about 6 weeks away, really 4 weeks for some people, of those first sets of exams coming through for those who are going into year 6. So this is a really hopefully going to be helpful topic for you guys in terms of those who've got their exams in September and are kind of spending these last few weeks of summer fine-tuning. And I guess for those in year 4, this is really helpful because it's sort of giving you a bit of an insight into like pace and speed and things like that, which really there's no harm in starting to at least think about this or work on it from sort of day one. So Lucy's going to chat to you first of all about year 4. Lucy sort of specializes in our level 1 classes, with inside the club. And then I'm going to jump into level 2 and I do more of the kind of year 5, year 6 teaching side of things. So
Thank
Lucy,
you very
please,
much.
over to you.
Thank you, Helen. So year 4, when it comes to time management, obviously we don't want to be doing anything too harsh. It's very much the year of exploring the 11 plus syllabus and taking everything that they're doing at school and maybe pushing it one step further. So timings, it's not really one that we would recommend to have like a firm schedule in place, because your child is still very much learning the curriculum, and asking them to have to learn the curriculum as well as do things within timed conditions just adds another level of stress. And remember, we don't want this process to be stressful for them or for you. So actually in year 4, when it comes to timings, give them a rough idea of how long it should be taking them to do something, but don't actually put that time in place. Don't say you must have this done within 10 minutes. You must do this within 3 minutes. Just say, like, shall we time how long it takes you to do? And then maybe we'll try a similar exercise again and see if you can improve your speed. But obviously the focus at this point in year 4 needs to really be on their understanding of the topics and accuracy, how many questions they are kind of answering correctly, as opposed to how quick can they do those questions. So it's very much similar to other aspects of year 4. It's just keeping it nice and fun, quite relaxed, and not too stressful or pressurized, because there's plenty of time for that in year 5, unfortunately.
Definitely. And I think as well, just to add to that, like, I think with the kids we work with, they all respond very differently to timings. And I think actually year 4 is a bit of a good time to kind of experiment with this and just see how your kids do respond to it. Like Lucy says, like, there doesn't need to be this time pressure in terms of like, it must be completed within 20 minutes, otherwise that's it, kind of almost overemphasizing the exam. But I do think it is still helpful and curious to see just how they do respond to that little bit of time pressure. And again, like we say, it's not about putting a timed pressure on an exercise they've never done before, because that's just kind of another level of stress they don't need. But let's say, for example, from an English perspective, like creative writing, I think it's really interesting to see some kids I think are motivated by time. It's we've talked about this before in other sessions, like I sort of said, I know on like a personal level, I'm like this. If you give me 20 minutes to do something, I'll get it done. Give me 2 hours, somehow I make it last 2 hours. Everyone sort of like works differently under pressure, don't they? And I think the kids are the same. Some of them, you give them a timer, and like homework, like I always say to people, if your child is taking forever to do their homework, set a timer, and that just gives them that little bit of extra motivation. But equally on the flip side, if timing seems to make them freeze or panic, or they struggle with it, then that's like an avenue to explore at like an earlier stage, so that we can start kind of getting in a bit sooner with the kind of mindset tips and things. And actually we're going to be talking about that in a couple of episodes time, talking about like confidence and growth mindset and things. So definitely come along to those as well if your child struggles a bit with like timing pressure as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've got time. By the time they're in year 4, you have time ahead of you to then kind of iron out these creases and work on these, I don't want to say issues, but, you know, anything that flags up that your child is maybe struggling with or dislikes about the process, you still have time on your side. So as long as you remain calm as their parent or carer, then, you know, they will sense that as well. And it will definitely help with their mindset.
Yeah. And I think, you know, in terms of like sort of moving a bit onto year 5, so I know there might be a couple of year 5 parents watching this thinking, well, hang on, we don't have all the time in the world now, you know, to kind of slowly, gradually introduce these things. And I think, you know, timing at this stage is still an issue for people. It's still things that they sort of find, like the kids find quite challenging. So I think in terms of doing this, I mean, this time of year now, a couple of weeks before exams, around August, this is the time when lots of people are doing mocks and things like that. And I think a really big thing to concentrate on is timings, really, and sort of seeing how the kids are getting on. So for example, I was talking to a group the other day in one of our mock workshops that we were doing, and I was saying, I know this is especially true of maths, but potentially could be for English as well in some cases, is that often some of the easier questions are actually at the end of the paper, but so often kids lose marks because they don't move through the paper quick enough, and then they miss out on that opportunity. So if you've ever seen Looney Tunes, I always joke to the kids, you need to be like Roadrunner. Like, I want you to have that little meep meep in your head as you're going through, and I want you to whiz through the paper at 100 mile an hour. Because I always say to them, you know, treat it like it's a game. Like, almost like kids love it when we gamify things, you know, we make it about points and picking up and collecting things. And I say to them, like, your exam papers like this, it's about you whizzing through and collecting as many points as possible. Like, the papers aren't necessarily designed for you to be getting 100% in them. You know, they are meant to be challenging. They are meant to be, you know, tricky at the end of the day. But timings and speed is what's going to help them to kind of pick up as many of those points as possible. So what you could do is you could break it down to a very kind of small level with them. So for example, like create, let's say CSSEs, and one of the tasks we do is we would say to them, rather than doing a whole paper, just break it down to like one writing task in 10 minutes and get them to really concentrate. And also as well, we always recommend to parents that when the kids are doing the writing tasks or whatever paper it might be, you know, CSSE, they could be doing a timed 4-minute section, whatever, when they're doing the paper, keep an eye on them, and just you keep an eye on the clock as well, and halfway through roughly ask them, how much time have you got left at the moment? And just kind of bring it to their consciousness, because I think so often they just head in the zone, off they go, scribbling, writing. They totally forget about time. They totally lose sense of how much time has gone. And, you know, we put watches on them, we have clocks in front of them, but are we actually checking whether they're looking at them or not, and they actually are managing their own time? Because I think it's important to emphasize to them, you know, like I always say, I wish I could be there, guys. I wish I could be there in the exam hall with you and being like, you know, 2 minutes, turn the page, look at the next question, but we just can't. So we need to teach them to kind of self-regulate almost in that way, that they do themselves.
That is exactly what it is. They're having to take some form of responsibility for their own time and knowing how to manage it. But I think an important thing to remember is within these exams, the timings that are given are usually roughly how long it takes. They usually give them ample time for most exercises, apart from CSSE creative writing, which of course is just 10 minutes per writing piece. But if we think about it, like 10 minutes just sat still is actually quite a long time. So as long as you know roughly the techniques and skills to help you plan effectively, 10 minutes is okay. You can do it. You don't have to write a book. You just have to write maybe 2 or 3, you know, short paragraphs, at least 6, 7 sentences, something like that. So sometimes I think it's thought that the timings that are associated with the sections are crazy, but actually they're not too far off of how long it would actually take us if we didn't care about time and we just worked through them. So I think if our mindset is okay, and if we just prepare ourselves mentally, like we are being timed, I'm going to work through this paper as quickly and effectively as I can. If I don't finish it, perhaps, you know, there's something wrong with my speed and I could work on my speed. If I do finish it, hey, it's a celebration. I've answered every question in that paper. So yeah, I think it's about mindset as well. It's about how you see time and not seeing it as something that is against you.
Yeah.
You can just use it to help monitor yourself as you're working through.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people might be sort of asking us, well, how do you improve the timings? Let's say that they are struggling with it. And I think like Lucy says, a huge part of timings is mindset, because we see it so often. Like the kids, they sit there and they freeze, or they start looking out the window, or they start sort of overthinking things too much. So one, I think it's that self-awareness, getting them to be in the zone. But two, another part of it could be that confidence, and they're lacking in that kind of that self-belief that they know the right answer, or they know how to work it out. So what I would say, even in year 5, is if you're getting to this point now where you feel like your child is sort of panicking too much, or they're losing time, almost give them something easier to do. Because I think this is a big trap that people fall into, is they feel like, I have to keep challenging them, I have to, the exams around the corner, we've got to really work on the most difficult things. But that can be like totally counterproductive. Like I always use the analogy about running a marathon. You don't run a marathon the week before you're actually running the full marathon event, because
Yeah.
you would exhaust yourself. Like it's just not a practical way of doing it. I give out this marathon advice like I run them. I don't. My mum does. I hear her talking about it a lot.
You may do one day.
I
Who knows?
doubt it highly. I'll cycle behind. But yeah, but the point is that sometimes, from a confidence point of view, it actually could be more beneficial to give your child something slightly easier for them to do. They will then hopefully complete it within the time, and then you can sit there and have that chat with them and reflect on it and say, look, you did like 15 questions in 4 minutes, or whatever crazy thing they might be asking you to do in CEM. It's totally possible. It's just that, maybe the questions are a little bit more difficult, but the process you've used to answer the questions are going to be exactly the same. So sometimes taking a step back can actually help you take a few steps forward in terms of like progress with things.
Yeah, don't be afraid of giving them an exercise that is going to be easy for them in its content, but actually it's not just about content. It's about instructions, reading instructions. It's about knowing how many marks they have, how long they have to do that exercise in. So all of this is good practice. It doesn't have to be, like Helen said, super challenging all the time. It's good to have, a balance of things, everything in moderation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, like in terms of like year 5 sort of preparations, like we always sort of say at this time of year, like trying, we're sort of saying, I say recording in August here, like avoiding introducing new topics, like going back over topics that you've already done. And again, identifying the sort of problem areas, so to speak, like the challenging ones. So like, maybe in CM or GL, it could be that comprehension is like the trickiest part. So rather than doing full paper after full paper, which can be quite like emotionally and
Exhausting.
physically exhausting, again, fine tune it to be like, okay, actually maybe this week we're just going to do 4 or 5 20-minute writing tasks, not writing, sorry, comprehension tasks, and
Yeah.
just focus on that core skill. So like I say, breaking it down by its segments rather than focusing fully on like just full paper all the time and doing it that way. And a week or two before the exam, slow down. Don't sort of feel like you have to cram in loads as well, and loads of sort of timing practice, because again, that can be detrimental to their confidence and sort of their mindset going into the exams.
Yeah, it's all psychological, the
It
whole
is.
thing. It's
It
like
really
99% psychology
is.
and 1% academic ability. This with any exam, we were the same, like with our GCSEs and A levels, and it's all about your mindset. Yes, you might have those skills and how to do certain things, but sitting in that environment, listening to those instructions, having to manage your time, these are all added levels below the surface, that we love to help children conquer, really, so that by the time they do sit their exam, they're like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry so much about what's in the exam, because I've got my timings right, I've studied, I've revised, and I feel confident. I feel like I can do this.
Definitely. Okay, guys, so we hope that you find that helpful. There's a couple of little tips there just for year 4 and 5s in terms of timings. Next week, we've touched on it a little bit more today about confidence, but we're going to talk about that a lot more next week because we have sort of so much to share. And then, like Lucy says, so much of this whole process is about helping them build their confidence for that sort of big day that they have coming up. So if you have any questions or anything you'd like us to help you with in terms of exam techniques and timings, please let us know. We do have mock exams coming up in August. So all of those dates are always shared on our page, emails, all of our group members, all of our members of the 11 Plus English Club, these are free for you guys and you're welcome to come along for our year 5 students. We don't recommend that the year 4s do the mocks because, to be honest, it's going to be testing them on things that they might not have learned yet. So as we've kind of said in this process, you know, don't test them and put them under pressure with things that they might not actually academically be able to do just yet, because it could be, again, taking a few steps backwards. So yeah, open to all year 5 members. But if you're watching this and you're not a member of the 11 Plus English Club, but you would like to come to our workshops where we do all the practice with like timings and techniques, go through full papers, talk about the answers and everything that they need, you are more than welcome to join us, and all the booking links are available, or you can contact us and we can send them over to you. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it, and we will speak to you all soon. See you in the next episode.
Speak soon, guys. Bye.